Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'll probably throw a couple of tech stocks at the end just to see how they're doing because sometimes they're going to pull down potentially other markets. And if you have any questions with anything, check out finding-value.com. We still have the coupon code going on, LEAP, LEAP. It is leap year. It is still active. If you'd like to use it, you get a larger discount on the yearly membership or a 50% off discount for the monthly membership if you want to try it out, only for the first month. Let's dive in. Let's see what's going on in the markets, and I'll give you my opinions. So the dollar continues to move basically sideways. So we're moving sideways here. It's been stable, although yields have been dropping. We can look at yields here too. We just move that a little bit bigger there. So going to yields, the 2-year yield, it is down today 1.17%, and it's stable. That's what the big key is here. The 2-year yield is stable. We've had a move upwards from here, and we've pulled on back some. Is there going to be a further downward move to the downside? Very much possible. Gold loves declining yields. It likes it when the yield curve also uninverts, something that we should look for because we've got declining yields at this time. Looking at the 10-year also declined today, a little bit of a gap down below support. Is it going to sustain a move lower, or are we going to come back up to support? Again, we'll have to wait and see, but today, 10-year yield is down almost 2%. 30-year yield also lower at 1.88. Is it going to keep coming lower? At this time, the momentum's to the downside, and it looks like that could be the case. So we'll watch it. We'll see if we continue to get lower yields. And yields could come back further if we see pressure, selling pressure, in the overall markets. TYX TNX ratio slightly higher, but not a huge difference, 0.11% higher. And the yield curve is still pretty much inverted. So no change there. We haven't broken out and started our ascent if yields are really going to fall and the yield curve is going to uninvert. It's still inverted. TLT bond prices moving up today, 1.42%. There it is, moving to the upside. We've got the US 2 and 10 also continuing to stay inverted. So we've got that inversion that's going, and it's continuing to invert. And it looks like, been looking at the data here, we've got the longer end of the curve going down more than the short end of the curve, which ultimately still results in yield curve inversion. Gold is up $12. We have a little wick at the top, a little bit of momentum slowing. You can see the candlestick opening and closing prices are coming down to each other, getting closer and closer to each other, which could indicate a turn. And we also have a little bit of a wick at the top, but this is your wick at the top. It came back as it's coming. It doesn't look too bad. We need more data to see if we're going to turn around, but momentum's definitely to the upside. And if we're going to get a short-term little selling pressure move, we'll have to see it, and that's something I just can't project yet. My guess is we'll get maybe 2 small down days, profit-taking days or something like that before heading higher again. So that's a guess. Silver's up against resistance. You can see we sold off a little bit today. A little bit of resistance there on that big trend line that we're basically trying to break out of. We've got platinum down about 2%, and that's doing basically a retest. We've maybe broken out doing a retest. We'll see. We'll see how this thing plays out. And then palladium also down today, about 2.2%, but it doesn't look too bad. We have a little wick at the bottom on the candlestick, and it looks like it's trying to bottom here. Give it some time. We had a pretty big downward move. And now we're trying to base out, and it's going to take some time. The basing process, it's going to take some time to base on out, let it be, uh, and just give it time, what it takes. XAU to gold ratio, we popped higher yesterday. Now it looks like we want to go a little bit lower and probably do a retest. Buy point would be somewhere in this range here if it gets down there. That would be a very good spot to be looking for gold and silver mining companies potentially. So we could see a pullback over the next few days in some of these gold and silver mining companies and the ratio itself. CRB index, we were down a little bit today. A little bit of selling pressure, probably attributed to oil because oil was down a little bit, but still looks good to go higher. We've broken out of this squeeze pattern there, and I think we'll eventually work our way on up. CRB to S&P 500, we're up higher today, 0.5%. I do think this is going to go higher. Why do I think that? I think the overall markets are looking pretty weak, and we'll go over some of that, the charts there. So GDX was up a little bit today, but we're coming up against resistance. So right at resistance. We've got GDXJ also at resistance here. Might get a little bit of a pullback before heading higher. And then SILJ was flat today, and we're still underneath that trend line, resistance line. We have not broken out on any of these charts yet. Crude oil down 0.7%, but I think it looks good. We've got support right underneath us. I'd like to get another candlestick in here that is a big bullish candlestick. Then I would say, yes, we are going higher. But at this time, we're on support. We'll see if the support holds or if the overall market's going to yank us lower with it. Because I think the overall market's probably going to head lower. Could it head lower? It's possible, guys. I mean, I could draw this where we've got kind of a squeezing pattern a little bit. I'm reaching here, but maybe something like that where we're squeezing up and maybe we can break to the downside. So let's see what the next candlesticks are of this week and see if we put in some large bullish engulfings or something like that. TTF natural gas up today, but we're up against resistance. This resistance line going across there. But it still looks pretty good. It's trying to bottom out. Natural gas in America up 2.24%. And again, I think this is trying to bottom out. I know production's been cut back quite a bit, and we'll probably see prices stabilize in this general location for a little bit and base out and eventually work our way up. My boy XOP, yeah, you know me, did okay today. We're back within the pattern. We had a bearish engulfing candlestick yesterday. We sold off today, back inside the pattern. We have further downside, or are we going to hold and try to work our way on higher? At this moment, I would say that downside is a risk when looking at the overall markets because it could easily drag us a little bit lower with the overall markets. When looking at OIH, OIH is looking all right. It's holding on today at least, and we do have a bearish engulfing yesterday. So could we get a little bit of a return move like this before heading higher? Very well could. And we could even, I mean, it's possible to even break lower than that, depending on what the overall markets do, what they look like, and the fear that could be generated if there's stronger selling pressure in the overall markets. Crop Physical Uranium Trust looks like we're still in a downtrend. This does not look done. This does not look like a bottom. It does not look ready. All right, that's my opinions there on that, and I think we've got a further downside move. URA also selling off a little bit. It's a battle here, and again, we'll watch it. We'll consider and we'll watch it. Now, if you back out, we do have a large bearish engulfing on the monthly candlestick of last month. So there could be further downside here, guys, what I'll say. Uranium also down today, but not as big. But when we start backing out and using bigger picture, momentum still to the downside. And I think there could possibly be further downside ahead of us, unfortunately. URNJ also rejected at support resistance. We came up, hit our head, and we came back. Let's see what trades next. I'm afraid that this is going to work its way on down where we get a little bit larger pullback. We've got lots of momentum weighing on this to the downside. We're squeezing up underneath support resistance, and we could drop out of that to the downside. TAN a little bit lower today. It's actually holding on quite well. It's just basing out. There it is on the bigger picture view. It's holding steady right around the support-ish area. We've got copper down a little bit, and it looks like we could potentially head lower here. We've got kind of a little pattern there where we dropped in. Maybe we drop back down. I'm not saying that this is just going to rip to the downside, but we could go to the lower end of this, which is a possibility. TOPX getting a little bit of selling pressure today. We were lower by about 1.8%, and we're right against resistance. Lithium getting lit up, big selling pressure, down move. And this just looks like a weird chart to me. I think we're going to get maybe even to $36 down here, somewhere down there, which is a possibility. Depends what the overall markets do. REMX also getting ripped to the downside, down 7.2%. And maybe we've got further downside with this. These renewables just aren't working out. And anything related to the renewables have been pretty weak lately. SPX down 1%, right on support. We'll see if we can hold or if this is going to break to the downside. If it breaks to the downside, we could see further selling pressure. This guy's in nosebleed area levels, and it could be a double top where this is a top up here and we could potentially head lower. I'm not yet going to claim that, but I said potentially. So let's watch and see if we get a move lower. The NASDAQ down 1.6% right on support as well, and we'll see if this basically dives lower. Next few days will let us know that. ARE up 4%, big bullish engulfing of everything before it. That looks good to go higher, surprisingly. We've got emerging markets that were down a little bit today. It looks like just selling pressure across the board, and that does look like we could head a little bit lower in the short term. On the weeklies, as we are putting in a bearish engulfing candlestick if we end the week where we do today. XHB, also a little bit of selling pressure. It looks like it's kind of hitting everywhere, but momentum still to the upside still looks good for XHB, which is the home builders ETF. Move down a little bit. It's holding on though, and I think we might tap the 69 level. That's kind of where it's pointing to. Iron ore down a little bit on the daily, but it still looks good to work its way on up in the short term. Nickel up 0.82%. That looks like it's bottomed and ready to go up. So nickel looks really good. Aluminum also down just a teeny bit, but still looks good to go higher with time. Broken down trend line looks good. Baltic Dry Index up 4.2%. Looks good to continue higher. We've got Newcastle Coal up 0.89%. Also looks good to go higher. That looks pretty good. We've got Bitcoin down 5.68%. That's interesting. We have a nice big move into a bunch of selling pressure. The selling pressure looks like this. So, wow, that's a lot of selling pressure right back to the support region here. Right at support. So, let's see what the overall NASDAQ does. If the NASDAQ sells off, I bet you this will probably pull back with it. This could be a double top. And then this goes all the way back down. That is probably what's going to happen with the NASDAQ eventually. I don't know if it's the top yet. We always get selling pressure, these wicks at the top. We're getting a wick at the top today. I'm not convinced yet, but generally you get a big selling pressure day, you get a wick at the top, something occurs at the top here, and generally that's a reversal candlestick. Same thing occurred today on Ethereum, and we'll see if this plays out that way. A lot of the times you get a big move, and this here is a popping pattern, and then it came back up, and then we'll probably end up somewhere much lower than where we are today. At least that's my opinion. And you can look at Elliott wave, determine that. And this would be your end of trend pattern. We've come back up, which is this is the bull. This area here would be the bull trap. This is your bull trap. The bear trap is occurring over in a lot of the commodities. And then I think eventually this will work its way on down. I don't know if this is the exact top though. SMCI, another one that we look at, you can see a bunch of candlesticks. This is the monthly or weekly, bunch of wicks on the candlesticks that generally indicates a reversal. Sometimes you get a couple of thrusts higher. That is what we're seeing today. Again, I don't know if this is the top, but it's not good to get a big, gigantic bullish distribution candlestick right here. So yes, we've gone up, but I think it's going to struggle to make a lot further gains ahead of us. We'll watch it together. NVIDIA also still forging a little bit higher. But when we start looking at companies like Tesla, this used to be a leader. This to me looks like a top. This is basically a head and shoulders top with the neckline, the breakdown, the retest of the neckline. Do it. Let's get some real legit deals in here. So the retest of the neckline, we squeezed on up. We have a bearish engulfing pattern here, which we've broken to the downside. This looks to me like we've got further to fall for Tesla. We can look at other companies like Apple's looking pretty weak, getting lots of selling pressure. This is a cash generating cow, don't get me wrong, but we are seeing some selling pressure. We'll have to see if that continues in Apple. We've got Google, which used to be a market leader too, and it is selling off. To me, this looks like a double top, and that we are going to go a lot lower in the short term. That is what I am seeing and probably suggesting, is that this thing is most likely going to head lower. This is the Batman pattern. The Batman pattern is, so what this is you've got your basically head and shoulders top, your ABC correction, then your Batman pattern is that whole pattern of the entire thing. Is that the case? I don't know. We'll find out here. I'm not playing any of this, but whenever you see these large selling pressure candlesticks and they kind of come up and you get another one here, 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 it's all showing up. That's distribution, which means people are selling it. They're trying to get the retail sector pulled in here. They can offload their shares to you, and you can be left with the big decline. They need that volume and those buyers basically take the shares from them. So that's what I've got for today. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you'd like. Leap. There are some opportunities out there this weekend. The question and answer sessions at 5 p.m. Sunday. I'm just trying to remember Mountain Time, and I'm going to go over the setup of oil and the setup of macro, big picture, debt crisis, all that stuff. I know I'm very bullish on oil for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to show you those reasons. And somebody wanted me to do this, so yeah, I'll do it. And I've got a big presentation to basically give on the setup. And it's not just oil, it's the big macro picture setup. And also I dive into some of this stuff here too. I think that this is peaking, and I mean, for the most part, I think that this is a big kind of topping. Here, let's choose something else. Let's use like Microsoft. that we've got maybe a potential peak coming up. Not really Microsoft. That's not a very good one. I'm trying to think. There we go. The S&Ps, and then you get these big commodity bull markets where the markets go sideways. I think that we've started it here basically, and then we're going to go sideways for a while. And what that means is it's going to be driven by certain sectors. And I'm going to go over those sectors, and go over the data, go over all of those things to kind of show you what I think could potentially come based off of the data that I have. And I weave a story or a picture together, a case, a thesis, so you guys can see it yourself. All right, guys, that's what I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.